How can an advanced telecommunications and technology provider get more data center sales? So, how does a company that provides advanced telecommunications and technology solutions get more data center sales? The first thing we need to look at is, are you selling advanced telecommunications and technology to the exact same clients? If so, we're building a single go to market playbook. If there are two different kinds of clients, then we potentially need two different go to market playbooks, potentially two different marketing plans and content plans and events strategies and sales teams, even. So it's incredibly easier to figure out your product roadmap in such a way that you're marketing to just one defined kind of company, one ideal client profile, one set of buyer personas, as opposed to having to do this twice, having to do this well twice. So the first thing is, are we able to sell telecommunications and technology to the exact same clients? If we are, then we need to understand who these companies are that we've done best with, where do we have the best reviews, testimonials, case studies, where do our customer success, our account managers knock it out of the park to get our clients exceptionally quickly with exceptional efficiency from initial value, intended value, extended value. So it becomes relatively effortless, or at least consistent and predictable, to be able to engage in a account expansion, cross sells, upsells, strong positive digital word of mouth, marketing collaborations, all the great things that allows you to continue to accelerate your growth flywheel. So once we know where we're doing best, then we go about defining our ideal client profiles. So we know geographically where these companies are located. Are we able to just work in a region? Do we work nationally? Do we work internationally, globally? Where are we able to best market, sell, and service these clients? Second, what company sizes are a good fit for our advanced telecommunications and technology solutions? Think Goldilocks. What's not too small, what's not too big, but just right? Because when it comes to most companies selling something technology or telecommunications related in and around the data center space, there is almost certainly a category of companies that are too small to afford what you have to offer. And there may be companies that are too large, where they want something that's significantly more complicated than what you can provide, or perhaps are doing this in-house or have wildly different needs than you can actually deliver on. So the self-awareness about the geographic component, the self-awareness about the company size, and then when it comes to advanced telecommunications and technology, especially when you start thinking about the geographic region, there's almost always an industry or business model type of component that comes into play with how you define your ideal client profile, because in certain geographic regions and certain industries, you have to contend with regulation, especially in the EU, the European Union, but there's many other regions around the world where choosing to do business in a certain vertical in a certain industry, and it's at the intersection of a certain geographic region, for sure necessitates having certain kinds of expertise to navigate these regulatory issues at the with telecommunications and technology. So we know where the ideal clients are located. We know roughly what company size they should be. We know what kinds of businesses. Once we have that, we can go about building out a target account list. This is anywhere from a couple dozen to a few hundred, maybe a few thousand. You may have heard this referred to as ABM, or account-based marketing. This is what defines the companies that we would love to be doing business with, but many of them, most of them probably don't know that we exist today. Once we know that, we need to figure out who are the people within these companies that need to know that we exist. And you'll usually prioritize based on the relationships that monetize the best, that have the most influence, that have the most, I've often heard the word conviction used, that are the best internal champions. And make no mistake, there's no such thing as a decision maker anymore. It's almost certainly going to be decision by committee. So we need to know the cluster, the group of people that we need to be building these relationships with. And do they all tend to be similar to each other in the goals and the goals they're trying to achieve and the challenges that they're trying to overcome? Or are they different? If they're quite different, if they have completely different goals, completely different challenges, then we may need to segment into one or more buyer personas, where your most important group of stakeholders that you want to build these relationships with would be your primary buyer personas. The second most important group would be the secondary buyer personas. And if there's a third group that's involved in the decision committee, but isn't quite as influential as first place or second place, they would be a tertiary buyer persona. You may over time as well end up defining a negative buyer persona. That's where you have a specialized segmentation strategy that you would apply potentially in paid ads like paid search ads or paid social ads, and certainly have different pages on your website, have different drop-down lists on your lead generation forms to be able to tell, is somebody a primary, a secondary, a tertiary buyer persona, or a negative buyer persona. Obviously, if they're a negative buyer persona, we want to filter them out relatively quickly so we don't invest a lot of sales resources in companies that we've determined that we really can't help. So in terms of how to get more data center sales, now that we've defined at the company level who we want and at the individual level who we want, we need to give people a reason to want to spend time with us. They need to see us as not just an advanced telecommunications and technology vendor. They need to see us as the definitive go-to experts on anything and everything having to do with advanced telecommunications and technology at the intersection of their data center related needs. So we use our buyer persona research to figure out what's top of mind for each of these groups. What do they need to figure out to get a big promotion, to hit their goals, to hit their objectives and key results, their key performance indicators, all of that good stuff. Once we know the consensus on that for each of our most important buyer personas, and the flip side of that, we know what's stressing them out to no end, their biggest struggles, their biggest challenges, that if they screw up, could cause a lot of derailment in their career, to say the least. Once we know the consensus on that, then we can go about building a content and an event strategy so that we can consistently show up as educators, subject matter experts, trusted advisors, consultants, and maybe even elevated to the level of thought leaders. Because the more time that we're able to spend with these data center related prospects and clients that would be a good fit for advanced telecommunications and technology, the more surface area that we're able to control throughout the full buyer's journey, owning as many of the 28 touch points between complete stranger and purchase decision as possible, the more likely it is that we control the criteria that they use to judge everything else that's in the marketplace. We're for sure going to be on the short list. And if we do this exceptionally well, this education, these resources, these events can sometimes completely neutralize the competitive options that are out there. But at the absolute minimum, we earn our way onto the short list with not just the primary buyer persona, but the secondary buyer persona. And when this is done well, when this is executed well, all or most of the decision committee. So when it comes to an advanced telecommunications and technology provider that wants to get more data center related sales, we need to understand the companies, we need to understand the individuals, we need to show up where they are, and we need to provide an exceptional value so that they see us as the go-to experts. So they want to spend time with your client-facing team members, spend as much time as possible where you can not only address the biggest questions and goals and challenges they have, but help them navigate what comes next. Because based on the pattern recognition for this kind of buyer persona and this kind of company, this is what they're going to care about first, second, third, fourth, all the way to step number 28. And you have breadcrumb trails, popcorn trails to be able to help them get from one step to the next as easy as possible, because you've seen what works exactly well for buyer personas, for individuals and for teams and for companies just like this.